Welcome to Motivational Humanity. You are not alone.
We spend so much of our lives trying to figure people out. We watch what they say. We listen to their promises. We study their resumes, their social media, their words, their apologies. But here's the truth most of us learn a little too late. The soul never reveals itself in words. It reveals itself in patterns. You don't know someone by how charming they are when things are easy. You don't know someone by how loving they are when you're useful. And you don't know someone by how loudly they proclaim their values. You know someone by what they do when no one is watching. You know them by how they behave when they're uncomfortable, threatened, or inconvenienced. And this matters deeply because many of our deepest wounds don't come from enemies. They come from people we trusted with our hearts. So today, we're not talking about red flags you read in a psychology article. We're talking about soul-level truths. If you want to know who someone really is, not who they pretend to be, watch these 4 behaviors. They will tell you everything. When you try to understand someone's soul, you don't start by listening to what they say. You start by watching what changes the moment you protect yourself. Most people are generous, kind, and patient with you as long as you are easy to access. As long as you don't ask for too much. As long as you don't make them uncomfortable. But something very honest happens the moment you stop over-explaining, over-giving, or over-tolerating. The moment you say, "This doesn't work for me." The moment you choose rest over guilt. The moment you don't reply right away. The moment you finally say no without apologizing. Suddenly, the tone changes. The warmth cools. The patience disappears. The affection becomes conditional. And you might feel confused at first. You might even blame yourself. Because when you've spent your life earning love by being agreeable, boundaries feel like betrayal, even when they are acts of self-respect. But here's the truth that takes most of us years to learn: a boundary doesn't create distance. It reveals how much respect was there to begin with. A grounded, emotionally healthy person may feel disappointed, but they don't punish you. They don't guilt you. They don't question your character just because you chose yourself. They stay present. They stay curious. They stay connected, even when they don't get what they want. But when someone benefits from your silence, your flexibility, your emotional labor, your boundary feels like a threat. So they push back. They call you cold. They say you've changed. They say, "You're not the same anymore." And they're right. You're not the same person who abandoned themselves to keep the peace. This is not about being dramatic. It's about watching what happens after your boundary, not the boundary itself. Does the relationship adapt? Or does it rupture? Does the person lean in? Or do they try to pull you back into who you used to be? Because the soul shows itself right there. In the way someone responds when your yes is no longer automatic. In the way they react when love requires respect instead of compliance. And if someone can only love you when you have no limits, that isn't connection. That's control disguised as closeness. Boundary reactions don't lie. They tell you whether someone is attached to you or only attached to the version of you they could access without resistance. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. When someone opens their heart to you, they are not offering information. They are offering trust. Vulnerability is one of the bravest things a human being can do. It's the quiet moment when someone says, "This part of me hurts." And in that moment, they are not asking to be fixed. They are asking to be held, emotionally, safely, without judgment. So if you want to know someone's soul, watch what they do after you show them your softest parts. At first, most people respond kindly. They nod. They listen. They say the right things. But the truth isn't revealed in that moment. It's revealed later, when there is conflict, when emotions are high, when patience runs thin. That's when you see whether your vulnerability was honored or stored away. Some people treat your pain like sacred ground. They remember it. They protect it. They are careful not to step on it even when they are upset. Others, they keep mental notes. And one day, when they feel threatened or defensive, they reach for the very thing you trusted them with, and they throw it back at you. They say things like, "You're just insecure. This is because of your past. You're overreacting, like always." In those moments, the wound reopens, but deeper, not because of what they said, but because you realized the place you thought was safe wasn't. Brené Brown teaches us that vulnerability is the birthplace of connection, but only when it is met with empathy. And empathy doesn't rush. It doesn't correct. It doesn't minimize. Empathy says, I'm here. I'm listening. Your pain makes sense. When someone responds to your vulnerability with dismissal, mockery, or impatience, it's not strength. It's discomfort with their own emotions. Because people who haven't tended to their own wounds often feel overwhelmed by yours. They may call you too sensitive. They may try to intellectualize your feelings. They may change the subject. Or they may subtly shame you for feeling at all. And slowly, without realizing it, you begin to shrink. You stop sharing. You stop trusting. You stop bringing your full self into the room. Not because you lack courage, but because your nervous system learned this isn't safe. And here is the soul-level truth. A person's capacity to hold your vulnerability is directly tied to how deeply they've made peace with their own. When someone treats your openness like an inconvenience or a weakness, believe the message, even if their words say otherwise. Your vulnerability is not a flaw. It is a privilege reserved for those who know how to protect what is tender, and the ones who can't. They reveal themselves the moment your truth becomes uncomfortable. There is a very quiet moment when someone's true self steps forward. And it's not when they're calm, praised, or getting their way. It's when they don't have control. When plans change. When you disagree. When life refuses to follow their script. When they are no longer the ones steering the conversation, the relationship, or the outcome. At first, it might sound like logic, like reason, like confidence. But listen closely, not to what they're saying, but to the energy underneath it. Do they lean in with curiosity or do they tighten? Do they ask questions or do they start correcting? Do they stay connected? Or do they need to dominate the moment to feel okay again? People with a grounded inner world can tolerate uncertainty. They don't need to win to feel secure. They don't confuse disagreement with disrespect. They may feel uncomfortable, but they stay present. Others, however, experience loss of control as a threat to their identity. So they raise their voice, they interrupt, they talk over you. They reframe your experience until it matches their version of reality. Sometimes it's loud, anger, intimidation, dismissiveness. But often it's much quieter: a sigh, a smirk, a subtle, you're being irrational, a tone that makes you doubt your own clarity. This is where control hides in sophistication, intellect, or calm explanations that leave you feeling small. And the truth is, the need to control others almost always comes from a deep fear of being exposed. Because when someone hasn't felt safe inside themselves, they search for safety outside. By managing people, outcomes, narratives. But control is not leadership. It's anxiety wearing authority. And if you notice that every time you assert your perspective, the other person escalates, dismisses, or twists the conversation, that's not communication. That's preservation of power. Your body often notices this before your mind does. A tight chest, a shrinking feeling, a sudden urge to explain yourself more clearly again. That urge isn't confusion. It's your intuition noticing that the space has become unsafe. Here's the soul-level truth most people ignore: someone who cannot tolerate loss of control will always struggle with intimacy. Because intimacy requires flexibility, humility, the willingness to be affected by someone else's truth. And when a person chooses dominance over connection, especially in moments of discomfort, they reveal exactly how fragile their inner world really is. Pay attention to who needs control to feel steady. That behavior will tell you far more about their soul than any promise ever could. Every relationship has moments of rupture. Pain is not the red flag. What happens after the pain, that's where the truth lies. Because anyone can say they care. Anyone can claim good intentions. But when someone realizes they've hurt you, something very telling unfolds. Some people slow down. They listen without defending themselves. They sit with the discomfort of knowing they caused pain. They resist the urge to explain, justify, or redirect. They understand that repair is not about being right. It's about restoring trust. Others do the opposite. The moment harm is named, they become tense, defensive, restless. They explain why you misunderstood. They focus on their intention instead of your impact. They rush forgiveness because sitting with accountability feels unbearable. And subtle as it may sound, the difference is everything. A sincere repair sounds like, "I see how that hurt you. I understand why that mattered. I'm willing to do it differently." Not, "I'm sorry you feel that way. That wasn't what I meant. You're taking this too personally." One acknowledges your experience. The other protects their ego. And ego protection at the cost of connection is not emotional maturity. Brené Brown reminds us that real accountability does not collapse into shame, but it also does not avoid responsibility. People with emotional depth can hold two truths at once. I didn't mean to hurt you, and I still take responsibility for the hurt. People who cannot do repair often react as if your pain is an attack. So they deflect, they minimize, they withdraw. Or they turn the conversation into a conversation about you. And over time, something quiet but devastating happens. You stop bringing up what hurts. You stop trusting the relationship to hold truth. You learn that your pain is too expensive for the other person to face. And that is not love. That is emotional loneliness inside connection. Here is the soul-level truth. The ability to repair is the ability to stay human under pressure. When someone can't acknowledge harm without crumbling, blaming, or punishing, they are not ready for deep intimacy. Not because they are bad, but because they are still protecting themselves from their own discomfort. Pay attention to repair, because apologies reveal character, change reveals maturity, and consistent repair reveals a soul that values connection more than pride. And once you see how someone handles the moment after they hurt you, you understand exactly how safe it is to love them. Here's the quiet part no one tells you. When you learn to see people clearly, you also start seeing yourself more clearly. You realize how often you've explained away behavior that hurt you, how often you called it love, patience, loyalty, when it was actually self-betrayal. But clarity is not cruelty, and discernment is not judgment, it's self-respect. You don't need to confront everyone. You don't need to expose, fix, or save anyone. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is simply see clearly and adjust your distance accordingly. Because when you stop chasing someone's potential, you begin honoring your own worth. And that is what healing looks like. Pay attention to patterns. They never lie. Your peace depends on what you tolerate.